Prime-time local news, serving the Lakeland and Midwest regions.
And we have local reaction to the federal budget as well. Stacey Comer spoke with the MP from the Battleford's Lloydminster to find out her thoughts on the plans for spending and cuts.
I'm joined today by Rosemarie Falk, the MP for the Battleford's Lloydminster. Rosemarie, thank you for taking time to speak with us today about the budget.
For sure. Thank you for having me.
Well, first question I want to talk about is the deficit that's coming out of all of this, just over $40 billion. Rosemarie, is that acceptable?
Well, in my opinion, it isn't. Stacey, we know that the deficit will be $40.1 billion for this fiscal year of 23-24. And so this is actually up from $30.6 billion that was projected in the fall economic statement.
And what about the grocery tax that they're talking about? Is that something that you see is going to be incredibly helpful to Canadians, or is it not enough?
Well, what's frustrating for me is the inflationary spending and the deficit spending is actually only going to perpetuate the problem. So what the NDP and the Liberals are doing are just really band-aiding the situation. Our Conservatives have been very clear. Lowering taxes will definitely help with the inflationary deficit that we have. So, I mean, we also seen that the NDP were also asking for another top-up of the GST. And so, again, this is just proving that these are band-aid solutions as opposed to the problem, which is this out-of-control spending that is fueling inflation and an ever-growing deficit.
Rosemarie, what would you and the Conservatives like to have seen in this budget? What are some of the things that you were advocating for?
For sure. So our leader, Pierre Poilievre, was very clear with what the Conservative demands were for us to support this budget. And we had demanded that Budget 2023 end the war on work and lower taxes for workers and inflationary deficits that are driving up the costs of goods, and remove the gatekeepers to increase the building, for example, of homes in Canada. We just see that there's so much red tape everywhere, with businesses leaving even the country just because the regulations, everything is so overregulated.
Now, just in regards to going forward with this, there were some initiatives. Obviously, the dental plan was something that was talked about. There's more money for Indigenous health priorities. Do you see some of these things as beneficial, or do they not go far enough?
You know what? That's a great question. I think what is frustrating is, and we're seeing the government do this already. These were what our demands were. There is not even a little trickle of showing, look, we're willing to work with you. For sure, there may very well be good things, but the devil's always in the details too, right? So once that Budget Implementation Act, then that's when we'll see how much money really is going. How is this even going to be implemented in the near future? So the devil is always in the details. But I mean, what we're seeing already, and we saw this with question period today, is that the government is saying, well, you're against this and you're against that because you won't vote for the budget. But really, in my view, that's petty politics, and it's actually doing a disservice to Canadians.
So what will you and your colleagues be doing over the next couple of weeks leading up to this? And, as the discussion continues, is there anything more that you can do at this point, Rosemarie?
Well, that's a great question. So the budget just being tabled yesterday, today's the first day that the budget is being debated. We are allotted 4 days for that. Once that is debated and finished being debated, the Budget Implementation Act should be tabled, and then we'll go from there. And like I said, the devil will be in the details there. For all we know, it could be an omnibus bill as well. We have to remember that, where there could be a lot of things in there that many parties may not agree with.
What can your constituents do at this point? Can they express their concerns to you and then you carry them on? Is there anything that we can do in this riding at this point?
Always. It's imperative for both of the borders, so those that do live in Saskatchewan to contact my office, but also those that live in Alberta to contact Shannon Stubbs' office as well. Make your concerns known. I mean, we have to remember the carbon tax is also being increased this Saturday on top of these new taxes that we're going to see. And, knowing how this is affecting constituents is imperative for us so that we can make sure we can bring constituents' concerns to the floor of the House of Commons.
Well, Rosemarie, it's always a pleasure speaking with you. Thank you for taking the time to talk with us again today, and we'll chat with you again soon.
Yes, thank you so much.
And sticking with local news, LPSD is offering a sports academy option for their students who would like to compete in a positive and fun environment. The academy is like an advanced phys ed class for students, and Shelby Clark says the response has been very strong so far. Here's this week's Beyond the Classroom.
Sports Academy focuses on the major sports that's offered in schools like track and field, volleyball, basketball, and badminton. Throughout the program, elite coaches will come in to work on technique and skills with the kids so they can improve.
We definitely sprinkle a number of other things in there as well, and so this week, for instance, we have a week of soccer that we're working through this week, and so we just have some one-off little mini units that we'll roll through, but for the most part we focus on the major sports.
The academy will train on each major sport in 3-week segments and take 1 week break in between to try out other sports.
You know, this opportunity allows them to get in here and blow off steam. So they have an option where they can be competitive and they can compete at a little bit of a higher level. But then also we see rapid improvement in their skills, and it's not just in one sport; it's in multi-sports, and so it's really fun for us as the teachers to be able to watch the students throughout the year and see the rate of improvement that they go through, and to see where they started at the beginning of the year and where they end up at the end.
In the future, teachers hope to keep the academy the same and possibly throw in other sports options for kids. Registration for next school year begins April 3rd for any parent wanting to sign their kids up for the academy. Students have been loving the experience and seeing big improvements in their skills, so they're prepared for teams they'd like to try out for in school.
Well, basketball, I wasn't too much into it. I've played basketball before, but it wasn't a big thing for me. And then in Sports Academy, I learned a lot of new skills, like going through my legs and trying to bring it around my back. Lots of different skills, and it was really easy for me to learn when I'm here.
Over the 2 years I've done it, Mrs. Gow she taught us how to smash a birdie and drop it, and if we're in an intense game, how to stay on our tee, a little tee that's right there. And in basketball, we were taught how to do opposite hand layups and dribble better.
And that's it in this week's Beyond the Classroom.
Lakeland College's doors are open for program info sessions on March 3rd and 10th. RSVP now at lakelandcollege.ca/info sessions.
Cold Lake will be benefiting from new money in the Alberta provincial budget. The province is investing $54 million to support 17 affordable housing projects across the province. Cold Lake's Stepping Stones Crisis Society is set to receive $2 million. Joining me to talk a little bit more about this investment in Cold Lake is Cindy Yang, the Director of Strategic Priorities for Stepping Stones Crisis Society. Cindy, thank you for being here today and joining me. First of all, can you share with us a little bit more about what this $2 million is going towards?
So Stepping Stones Crisis Society is embarking on a new net zero build with a conceptualized shelter model to better support the continuum of care for survivors of family violence. So this build is going to look like a 4-story emergency shelter, second stage shelter, and community resource building in Cold Lake, serving our surrounding communities, municipalities, settlements, and reserves. And so some of the benefits to this build will not only increase the number of shelter beds that are available, but also the second stage units available, which will also see an amalgamation of all of our core programs and services under one roof, which we're looking so that will hopefully lower barriers to access for these services such as transportation, and then also help reduce administration costs. So on the west side of the building, it's going to be featuring a variety of kind of mixed use spaces. And then these spaces are going to be kept separate from the east side, which will be primarily used for housing. And so what we hope this project will do is anchor our center as a regional support for vulnerable Albertans facing life crisis as a result of family violence. And we hope to extend the continuum of care for clients as they look to rebuild their lives from violence.
Can you talk a little bit about what it means to be receiving this money? Obviously, this is a project that your organization has been working on for quite a while. So what's it like to be able to get such a large amount of money to go towards the project?
Yeah, so we're really, really excited because Honestly, over the last 5 years, our turnaways due to capacity for women and children have increased over 350%. So our 30-year-old building is really no longer able to meet the needs of our region. And especially so the last 6 years, we've seen our services separated into 4 buildings in attempt to meet some of those needs, which of course then increases those barriers for community members, and that also adds on to the administration costs. And that's kind of what reaffirmed our priority to increase shelter beds and work to amalgamate our programs and services under one roof. And look to increase our shelter beds and second stage housing units. And then also, give us a chance to make this build accessible for individuals with limited mobility, which includes emergency shelter and second stage housing units as well. So we're so excited to be able to offer this because the need is prevalent in our community. So to be able to receive this funding is really going to make a difference for us.
And I understand that Stepping Stones is discussing this project in Ottawa, talking a little bit about the continuum of care.
Yes, we're hopeful to be able to extend on this continuum of care by being able to add a third stage slash affordable housing component as well, which is also going to include a trauma-informed daycare. We're really grateful for the community for their continued support, not only for us, but for the survivors of family violence. And, while we're so grateful to have received this capital grant, unfortunately, it doesn't cover the entire cost, but it does give us a great start. So we're actively looking to kind of secure additional funding commitments and things like that. So we're just so grateful for all the support that we've seen in this community.
Cindy, there's obviously a lot more room to grow with this project, but I want to say thanks for talking a little bit about it today and sharing the excitement about this funding and sharing a little bit about what this project is with our viewers today.
Thank you so much.
And now it's time for us to check in with Shelby Clark, who has a look at weather.
Thank you so much, Mr. Jason Mackey. Yes, now taking a first look at your weather forecast here in the Border City for our Wednesday. Another beautiful day, I would say. We are just at that 0 mark with that wind chill feeling around -4, -5 degrees, so only slightly cooler from what we are sitting at. But it's nice to see as we have hit that plus temperature throughout the day and looked at a nice mixture of some sun and clouds throughout it as well. So that sun definitely helped warm things up. So hopefully everybody has enjoyed their day through today and has been outside and enjoyed the weather quite a bit, because we are starting to see some of those spring temperatures every once in a while here in the Border City. Switching over to temperatures across the region for Alberta and Saskatchewan. Most spots are seeing those plus temperatures. We aren't really seeing much minuses now on our Alberta side for sure. Some are even matching with us here in the Border City with Marwayne there at that 0 mark. Some are looking at that 1 degree mark with Vermilion, and down in Provost, most are just seeing around 2 and 3 degrees on our Alberta side. So very nice to see as we are warming up things quite a bit since compared through the week. We were looking slightly cooler starting off. And then over in Edmonton, of course, looking at the nicest condition there with 6 degrees as they are looking slightly warmer compared. Going over to our Saskatchewan side, they actually are matching with us more on our Alberta side than what they were kind of seeing yesterday. No minus marks on this side either. Most are just seeing around 2 and 4 degrees, it seems to look like on our Saskatchewan side. That 1 degree mark up in Isla Crosse and down in St. Walburg. And as we go a bit lower down in these spots here, they are just all hitting that 0 mark and matching with us more here in the Border City. And now for North Battleford, that is sitting at that 0 mark. They will be going down to a low of -7 for their evening low. So they will be hitting that single digit. They won't be seeing as cool as what we were seeing last night. Although for condition-wise for North Battleford, they will be expecting around 1 centimeters of some snowfall. So definitely a high chance of those flurries for tonight. And then for tomorrow, -3 that daytime high. So cooling down back to that minus mark, but still seeing that single digit and a mixture of some sun and clouds. So hopefully that'll help warm things up and it will melt down some of that snowfall. Cold Lake will be going out to a low of -10 tonight for their evening low, so hitting that double digit, although they will also be expecting that 1 centimeter of some snowfall. So it will be slightly cooler with those conditions, but they will be seeing a nicer temperature than what they have been seeing throughout their evening temperatures this week. And then for Cold Lake tomorrow, that daytime high mark of that 0. So they will be looking almost at those plus temperatures once again, and they will be expecting more sun peeking behind those clouds, so that will help warm things up. For us here in the Border City, we will be going down to low of -9, so we will be seeing that single-digit mark. We will be seeing a nice temperature for our evening low, although be prepared, we will be getting some light flurries tonight. So around 1 centimeter is what we are expecting for that coating, but don't worry, because tomorrow we will be looking at -3 for our daytime high, so expecting that single digit, although it is minuses, and we will be seeing a mixture of some sun and clouds, so that definitely will melt things down for us as we finish off with tonight. Now, ending off the look at your 3-day forecast, we will be looking at that -3 tomorrow and warming it back up on Friday as we head off into our weekend with that 1 degree mark. So seeing that plus temperature once again on Friday and a lot more sunnier skies. As we head into our weekend, we will be seeing those beautiful temperatures once again throughout our weekend here in the Border City. That's all I have for now for our first look at your weather forecast.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that, Shelby. After the break, how a Saskatchewan MLA is being remembered after losing his battle with cancer. Sports, the CPCA season is still a few months away, but preparations are taking place with drivers training and tarp sales. Our Thomas Wildman has more.
Today we have Greg Buchanan, the Vice President of the Canadian Professional Chuckwagon Association, and he is here to give us a little bit of a preview of the upcoming CPCA season. And so thank you so much for being with us today, Greg.
Thanks for having me, Thomas.
And so, Greg, tell me a little bit about the tarp sales. The NACC one was just this past week, and then the CPCA finals one will be coming up early next week. Tell me how important it is for the drivers to get these tarps sold and where that money goes and how important it is for them.
It's the bloodline for the sport, you know, and it starts at that tarp sale. And more than anything, it actually starts before that, because a lot of the drivers do their homework leading into the new Lloydminster Nissan CPCA finals, at tarp sale at the Lloyd X. And they knock on a lot of doors, they make a lot of phone calls, and they try to get sponsors in there, and they try to have a connection to those sponsors before that night comes. So there's a lot of work that goes in to that night of the tarp sale that leads on to the entire season.
And so, Greg, the CPCA season is quite a few months away, but what are some drivers doing right now in order to train their horses and themselves and their kind of personnel right now in order to be ready for the season coming up this summer?
Well, all depending how they're set up. There's an apparatus called an equisizer, and what an equisizer is, it's like a merry-go-round for chuckwagon horses, where they get a harness and they go around, and it's a covered, enclosed apparatus, so you could actually do that year-round. Those are the lucky ones. The ones that don't have that, they kind of have to wait until the snow melts and kind of do a little bit of racing and a little bit of truck training and whatever they have to do in the back 40. So right now, as it gets warmer and warmer, the more chances are there's going to be some thoroughbreds hitting the trails throughout this area, and the quicker they can get air in the lungs of those horses getting ready for the race season ahead, the better they're going to do come June, July, and August.
And so, Greg, tell me a little bit about a few of the front-running drivers, I know it's early to talk about it, that will be looking to be very successful again this year. Logan Gorst, of course, just sold his tarp for quite a little bit of money and was very successful at the CPCA finals last year. And so tell me about him and a few other drivers that you're thinking are going to take a step forward / be in that race for the top aggregate this year.
He should be one of the contenders, a former Calgary Stampede champion, a former Canadian champion. You know, there's always those usual kind of suspects like Todd Baptiste, and you also have, Danny Ringette's an up-and-coming guy. Preston Faithful had a tremendous season last year. Don't forget a Brad McMahon, and DJ King is coming onto his own as well. So there's a long list of drivers that will contend and that will get, as we get a little closer to the August and the CPCA finals hosted by the new Lloydminster Nissan. But yeah, it's interesting because there's so many different variables that come into play every race season that you could count in this guy, and all of a sudden, has a couple of penalties in a given night, and it takes him out of contention to win a show. But yeah, there's always those usual suspects, and expect a few more guys to come up along the ranks too that are just going to get better. Cale Lajeunesse was a young driver a number of years ago that made his debut, and now as he gets more experience under his belt, he's going to start contending for a top 10, top 5 finish.
Thank you so much for all the information, Greg, and we will definitely continue to talk to you as the CPCA season gets underway.
Thanks a lot, Thomas.
Well, and I know a lot of people here in this area are very excited to see those chuck wagons going around the track again in a couple of months. Well, it's time for us to take a look at the weather and what we're going to be seeing in the next couple of days with Shelby Clark.
Thanks again so much there, Mr. Jace Mackey. Yes, now taking another extended look at your weather forecast. We'll be starting off with our central zone as always. And of course, we are looking slightly warmer compared to what we were seeing yesterday. Of course, starting off in the week, we were looking a lot cooler, you know, those minus points for sure. Now we have warmed it up and we are even getting closer to those double digits for our plus temperatures, but you know, not quite yet. We are definitely looking, seeing an improvement for today though. On our Alberta side, all spots are seeing those plus temperatures, most around 2-3 degrees. And then we got those 6 and 7s for Edmonton and Edson at 6, 7 for Whitecourt and over in Jasper, and then Rocky Mountain House is right in the middle there at that 5-degree mark. But we are looking at some beautiful conditions on our Alberta side. Going over to our Saskatchewan side, they are looking slightly cooler. They are kind of continuing that cool track compared to our Alberta side throughout the week. For today, some are seeing those plus temperatures with that 0 mark in North Battleford, 3 degrees up in Meadow Lake, matching with Cold Lake there. But then we start to have those cooler conditions over in the minus areas. -1 in Prince Albert, and then Saskatoon and Melfort at -2, -3. But, you know, not looking as cool as what they have been seeing throughout the week as well. Going over to our northern zone, they have warmed up slightly as well for right now as they are getting closer to those plus temperatures, but, you know, not quite there yet. The coolest, though, we are seeing on our Saskatchewan side is -6 for Stony Rapids and over in Wollaston Lake. -5 up in Uranium City, while we got some -1s for La Loche and Buffalo Narrows. And then for South End and Flin Flon, they are probably the warmest conditions on our Saskatchewan side with that 0 and 1 degree mark. And as we go back over to Alberta side here, they have slightly warmed up from what they were looking at yesterday, only slightly. These spots here were actually seeing some slightly warmer conditions yesterday as they were getting more to that 3 and 5 degree mark. Now they have slightly cooled down, but you know, they are still seeing at that sitting at that 0-1 degree mark. These spots here probably are what seeing the biggest accomplishment here for today, as they are seeing that 0-1 degree mark for High Level and Fort McMurray, and just looking at -1 there in Fort Chipewyan. They were even seeing those minuses and those double digits for the past couple days throughout this week. So for right now, I think they are seeing definitely an improvement. They have warmed up quite a bit for today. Now as we go over to our southern zone, they are matching with us more in our central area for sure with these conditions on our Alberta side. 6 and 7 degrees for Banff and Calgary. So those are the warmest conditions we are looking at on our Alberta side. We have Lethbridge in the middle there at 5 degrees. And then Medicine Hat is just at that 1 degree mark, and then is -1 up in Coronation. So Coronation continues to see slightly cooler temperatures compared to the rest of these areas. But you know, -1 is probably the warmest they have been seeing throughout the week. So that's nice to see. Going over to our Saskatchewan side, they are looking all are still sitting at those minus points, so still looking slightly cooler, but they are seeing more of those single digits, which is nice. They have been seeing a lot of those double digits throughout the week, so they definitely have warmed up for today. -2 for Swift Current and Moose Jaw, while we're looking at -3 for Kindersley and over in Yorkton. Then we got -4, -5 for Regina and Estevan, and -5 seems to be the coolest condition yet on that side, so not looking too bad. Okay, and now as we look at some overnight temperatures expected tonight as we head into our Thursday. Can't believe we're already at Wednesday night. It's crazy to see. This week is flying by. I don't know how if everybody else feels the same way, but we are looking at not too bad of temperatures expected for tonight in these surrounding areas, especially for Provost, expecting a low of -7. So Provost will be seeing that single digit. Low of -10 expected for Bonnyville and Paradise Hill tonight. Low of -14. Meadow Lake will be seeing tonight, and Isla Cross will be seeing the coolest with that low of -17. So most will be expecting those double digits, but you know, we'll be still not as cool as what we're used to in previous years, as I always say, but all of these spots are going to be expecting a high chance of some flurries besides Provost and Isla Cross. We are going to be seeing around 1 to 3 centimeters in some of these areas tonight. Looking at our hourly forecast for our Thursday here in the border city, we are going to be starting off with those single digits for those minus marks. So nice to see that right in the AM tomorrow. At around 8, 10 a.m., we'll be seeing around -9. And as we go through mid-afternoon, our daytime high will be hitting that -3. So that nice single digit there will continue on. And as we head into tomorrow evening, as we go into our Friday, we'll only be cooling down to around -6. So expect a beautiful day tomorrow in the border city. Make sure to still layer up, but you know, take advantage, get outside and enjoy this nice weather while we have it. That's all I have for now. I'm Jace Mackey. We'll have our news coming out for you after the break.
It's that time of the week again where we visit with Stephanie Dobson. Stephanie is a lawyer and mediator here in Lloydminster at Hanka Divorce Law and Mediation. And it's time for another episode of Healthy, Thriving Family After Divorce. Stephanie, we're going to switch things up a little bit today, change our theme for the next few weeks, and we're going to be talking about technology. So let's talk about how technology has impacted and impacts divorce.
This is probably one of my very favorite topics. I really love implementing technology when we can use it effectively. Sometimes technology can be a pain, and sometimes it can be really helpful and economical and effective. So let's talk about kind of how technology, as you said, has impacted the divorce process. So in my case, it's pretty amazing to me to know that you never actually have to meet with me, either a lawyer or mediator, in person to complete your divorce from the very beginning to the very end. So from either conducting meetings by Zoom, whether that's as a lawyer in one-on-one or in a settlement conference or even in a mediation, or even to submitting documents electronically. We used to get piles of paper being dropped off at our office, and we'd scan them in or we just put them on the paper file. But for us, families can even submit stuff electronically now, signing documents remotely. We even e-file our court documents. And even on the parent side, parents can use specialized apps to help their communication to be more effective. So I would have to say that although COVID has had a lot of negatives, and we all know the negatives, one of the positives has been how, in my opinion, how it's normalized the use of technology, and in this context, in the divorce process.
And talking about COVID-19, Stephanie, obviously, as you said, when that was happening, most people had to do things via Zoom or remotely somehow. Is it getting back more to in person, or are you finding that people are liking technology and being able to do things remotely?
Well, I would say that it differs from firm to law firm. In my case, I had a remote practice throughout the entirety of COVID. And so from March 12th of 2020, right through to, the masking and the whole thing, I worked with every client remotely. Now, once the in-person stuff started to come back, I can say that I never did go back. So I've kept my practice entirely remotely. And what I've found is that that's actually increased my service area. So now I consider that I help families all throughout Alberta, all throughout Saskatchewan. And, there's a lot of clients that are outside of our Lloydminster area that are really thankful that they can meet with me remotely. Clients do appreciate having the face-to-face, but what I consider screen. So when I'm meeting with people, I really do like having that video on, because I do feel that connection is really important. That nonverbal communication that we get, that people consider that is in person only, I find that I can get a lot of that through Zoom. And if I'm running late, or if the client's running late, there's no commute, there's no waiting in my waiting room for however long, for 15, 20 minutes. We can just send you a quick text and say, hey, we're running late. We, don't bother coming on Zoom for 10, 15 minutes. So we find that our clients really appreciate Zoom and the remote factor, but certainly that's not the case for everyone.
And what about for those people who aren't as tech savvy and just are not really big fans of technology? How do you help them out, Stephanie?
Well, there's really three different ways that we use technology in our firm. So the first thing I mentioned, talking about meeting with people by Zoom. I've tested out tons of different platforms for video conferencing. And for me, I've found that Zoom is by far the easiest one to use and really the most ubiquitous. So everyone seems to have attended a Zoom meeting at some point, even if it wasn't before COVID. It was certainly since COVID, most people have joined. They don't need to sign up for anything. They can download it on their phone or their tablet. It's really quite easy. We have lots of people attending, not only initial consultations, but doing their entire Zoom through their phone. Their entire mediation through Zoom. And we have found that every different vintage, every different comfort level with technology has really has been able to join Zoom very easily. So that's the first thing, is the meetings. The second way that we implement technology is we use texting as a way to message with clients really quickly. So we have the ability through our phone system to text message with people. And I tell you, it's gone from, taking 3 or 4 days to get a meeting booked to 3 or 4 minutes practically to get a meeting booked, because most people seem to be on their texts you know, all day, every day, pretty much. So it really helps to get things going in a much more efficient way. So Zoom, texting, and then our third one is the document gathering. So I mentioned how people can submit their documentation through electronic ways. And we have adopted a really easy online portal where people can submit documents to us. They can even do that through the app on their phone. So some people have their physical papers and they say, well, I don't have a scanner or a printer. So right within the app, people can actually scan their documents and upload it to us, and then we have it really easily. Lots of notifications on our end to know that that stuff's been received. So we can, of course, you can bring in your documents if you want, but what we find is that people have really adapted well to our use of technology.
All right, Stephanie. Well, thank you so much for joining us once again this week, and we'll be back next week to chat more about more technology issues with separation and divorce. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Stacey.
Furniture set and design supplied by Furniture Gallery and Furniture House, downtown Lloydminster.
I'm happy to be joined again by Verna Haight with the Labus Society. A while back, we talked about the Labus logo contest where members of the community could submit their version of what the new logo should look like. Thank you so much for joining me again.
Thank you.
Of course. Now, you've narrowed it down to 5 submissions. Tell me about how many submissions you had received and the creativity that you saw in them.
Well, we had over 70 submissions, so it was hard to pick just the top 5. It took us we had them up on our board, all of them, just to be able to look and see which ones catch our eyes. We've had kids enter, we've had adults, we've had professionals. It's just been fantastic to see. Yeah, it's a hard choice, but this is why we ask the community for their help. So, I mean, it's narrowing it down even more for us, but the Brain Injury Society here will have the final say. So
it's amazing that so many in the community have taken time to create a potential logo for Labus. That support is awesome. The logos have been narrowed down to 5 submissions. How can people vote and what should they know?
So you go on to our Facebook page, the Lloydminster and Area Brain Injury Society. You find our post, and all votes have to be on the original post. It cannot be on the posts that I put in groups or anything like that. We're not looking at those, just the ones on our original post on our page. Go on there, you can click on the picture you like and vote underneath, or even just in the comments on the post itself.
It's amazing. I was looking at the original post and it had well over 300 comments. So it really goes to show the community support in this for sure.
Absolutely. And there's over 100 likes and loves on there also with the comments. So it's going to be fun to see tomorrow. I believe on Wednesday, we're going to go through and start taking votes down and see who's in the lead and yeah, check it out.
Now, we were talking a bit before about if you will be getting a new sign and what the logo will be on, and you mentioned swag. Tell me a little bit about that and where the new logo will be showcased.
So we have, every year we order bags for when we have our online auctions. People receive one of our bags with the logo on it and the Brain Injury Society. We also have sweaters and t-shirts and everything made up for our ball tournament, our bones tournament and all that. So it'll be on there. On our letterhead, you will just see it everywhere.
It's been amazing seeing that support. No, Labus has been in the community for so long. What better way to get a new logo than having the community submit their ideas and get them involved?
Absolutely, it has. It's great to get the awareness out there for us so that people remember we're in their community. We're here if they need us.
Finally, when do you believe you'll have the final submission picked and where will you be announcing the winner?
I believe we should have it picked by Friday. Yeah, the last day of the month, of course, leave it to the very last minute. They can come onto our Facebook page, onto the original post. We will have it on there. who the winner is. We might even just make a whole new post with only their logo.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. I can't wait to see what the new logo will be. The submissions are all so beautiful that whichever one that gets chosen, it's going to be amazing. So thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Ending off with a quick look at your 7-day forecast now. We will be looking at that -3 tomorrow with a mixture of some sun and cloud. Make sure to enjoy it. It will be quite nice. We'll even be warming up for Friday and Saturday as we head into the weekend there with that 1 degrees Friday, 0 mark for Saturday and Sunday. So we are expecting a beautiful weekend, although we will be ending off with a high chance of some flurries. So just be prepared for some flurries coming up. But as we head into next week, that will melt down surely as we hit those single digits next week.
Thank you so much for that, Shelby, and thank you all for joining us for this edition of Primetime Local News. Have a great night, and we'll see you again tomorrow.